Wildfires, a natural disaster not unknown to many Californians. It is so common, in fact, that over half of our year is referred to as fire season. These fires are often very complex and impact communities in numerous ways, along with resources and the environment itself. But to understand wildfires, it's important to know what they are, along with their history. A wildfire is often defined as an uncontrolled fire that spreads through vegetation, often in rural and forested areas. They can range from being big to small, but often all share the same orange hue. Historically, they have been very destructive. In California, there hasn't been much data on exact acreage or wildfire spread, but one of the earliest fires I could find was the Santiago fire. This fire apparently was one of the biggest fires in terms of acreage in California's history up until 2018, burning around 300,000 acres of land in Southern California. The effects of wildfires highlight deeper issues in our society, such as the hot and dry climate reflecting the soundless issues of climate change, or the lack of preventative measures that could help keep people's families, homes, and communities safe. So this definition of wildfires does not sound like it would apply to the Bay Area, rural and forested, or at least the East Bay. But believe it or not, it does. East Bay communities in Oakland, for example, have experienced larger scale fires such as the infamous Tunnel Fire in 1991. Around the Oakland Hills, this fire is one of the most destructive fires in California, costing around $1.5 billion and ruining 3,500 houses. So the Bay Area is no stranger to wildfires. But in addition to the direct impacts of wildfires, wind patterns play a vital role in the spreading of wildfire and wildfire smoke. For example, the Tunnel Fire took place in the hills of Oakland, and one of the main contributors for the continuation of the fire spreading was the 65 miles per hour winds that helped revitalize a flame they had thought they had put out. Wind can not only spread fire itself, but the smoke that comes with it. Smoke that intoxicates the lungs and leaves many with lasting health problems. This wind could only have descended down to West Oakland, a community already burdened by other sources of pollution, such as I-980, I-580, and I-880. Day-to-day poor air quality that is caused by these highways is only worsened by wildfire smoke. This leads me to another thing I wanted to talk about, how wildfires start. So from the research I've been able to do, in 2017, over half of the fires started were caused by human-related activities, or mainly arson. This is where a person will purposely set fire to something with the intent of spreading the said fire. There are other unintentional acts of spreading wildfires, such as leaving campfires unattended or not disposing of cigarettes properly, along with other infrastructural things such as power line failures. There are other natural ways wildfires can start, such as lightning. There are other factors such as how much precipitation there has been, or how many fire-prone shrubs or grasses that are around. In recent years, climate change has also been linked to the increase of wildfires. With more evaporation from the warming of our atmosphere and less opportunity for precipitation to nourish ecosystems, especially forestry, wildfires are heavily connected to air quality, climate change, and the environment, taking away the homes of many wildlife and disrupting the natural flow of ecosystems, possibly causing species to be endangered from lack of food, or the possible takeover of a species who may cause disarray in an ecosystem. Overall, drier weather increases the chances of fire. In 2018, a fire in Paradise, California, known as the Camp Fire, burnt down a whole community. Though at the time I was only in middle school, the smoke had made everything seem unworldly, almost like the apocalypse had come right to my doorstep. And I can only imagine how horrifying this fire was for the people who lived in Paradise or in the area surrounding. This fire is the most recent instance of how terrifying wildfires can be. This wildfire is recorded as one of the most, if not destructive wildfires in California, burning over 150,000 acres of land, and reportedly had been caused by a malfunctioning power line from PG&E. It displaced around 27,000 people alone in Paradise. After this fire, more changes in forestry management, evacuation plans, and security surrounding electrical grids, in hopes of changing the outcomes of future wildfires and their effect on communities. The wildfire smoke alone from campfire reportedly spiked with dangerous levels of particulate matter, or an air pollutant that's especially terrible for your health due to its particles being able to easily enter your lungs. The smoke from this wildfire did not only affect those in Butte County, but Californians all across the state. In recent years, wildfire smoke has been studied deeper and linked to various health issues. Reportedly, there's a chance that over 12,000 people could have died earlier than expected due to the widespread wildfire smoke. A more specific example of a health issue could be the inflammation of the lungs, as they are irritated by the smoke, causing coughing and possible long-term discomfort. A more recent example of wildfire's destructive nature is in the 2020 North Complex Fire. During a storm, lightning struck the area, causing the densely populated forest to erupt in flames. The fire was fed by the dry shrubs that littered the ground, engulfing around 320,000 acres of land. Taking into account the year these fires took place, hospitals already crowded with many people sick with COVID were then overburdened with even more patients whose symptoms of COVID had been heightened with the presence of air pollutants like PM 2.5, causing many more people to be sick and many more to be in life-threatening states. Wildfires have had a long history in California. And for California, not all forms of fire are necessarily a negative thing. Many forests often do need to have some sort of fire to help clear out vegetation that prevents plants from growing, along with releasing nutrients back into the soil. And over a long period of time, it also helps prevent disastrous wildfires. Before settlers arrived here, many Native American tribes practiced cultural burning. Cultural burning is the practice of purposely setting fire to a particular area of a forest to help revitalize it, often used to create more available land for pasture and the growth of important vegetables and fruits. Some of these fires even cause some ecosystems to be dependent on them, burning down and allowing more and more biodiversity within each ecosystem each burn. Now a densely covered forest, beautiful to look at, but also a high risk of wildfires and less biodiversity. Cultural burning in Yosemite, for example, was very important for its landscape. Once covered by trees in a way that allowed easy transportation and gave many plants the opportunity to grow, now a densely covered forest. Beautiful to look at, but also at risk of wildfires and less biodiversity. This example is not just related to areas surrounding Yosemite, but can also be applied to areas all across our state. To quote universitypccalifornia.edu, in their article about Indigenous land stewardship, cultural burning comes back to what we are burning for, and it's not burning for acres. We are burning to restore the land, restore the resources, restore water, bring it back to where it can reproduce on its own. Colonization and fire suppression techniques from the 20th century changed land management practices. More popular ways of fire suppression now include things such as airplanes dropping fire suppression chemicals such as soda acid, foam, and carbon tetrachloride extinguishers. The effects of dumping chemicals on the environment and communities does not always guarantee that it's safe to breathe in. So fire suppression techniques continue to be a work in progress. Current fire management practices have been inspired by cultural burning. Prescribed burns are a bit different than cultural burning, but it can still help prevent future wildfires. There are many upsides to prescribed fires, such as returning nutrients back to the soil, giving trees and other plants the opportunity to grow, along with helping remove invasive species. Though as you couldn't expect, these fires have their downsides. They can turn into wildfires. They, at the end of the day, are still fires, so they do have an effect on local air quality, and they can also be costly and time-consuming. These burn success vary depending on where they are done. You can see how wildfires affect the environment. It's important to also understand how they affect people in communities experiencing wildfires. Different groups of people are more susceptible to poor air quality and its impacts. Groups such as elderly, children, those with pre-existing cardiovascular issues often are the most affected by wildfires. already having a cardiovascular issue can make wildfire smoke 10 times worse to be in or live in, leading to more quick and harmful issues, possibly enabling pre-existing cardiovascular issues to get even worse. As mentioned before, low-income communities of color are disproportionately impacted by wildfires or bad air quality. Many may not have access to proper air filters when air quality is the worst. Adding onto that, healthcare is less accessible to communities with low socioeconomic status. A majority of impoverished neighborhoods are often put into more highly susceptible areas in terms of the number of polluters and climate disasters such as wildfires. These communities are often one of the first and most impacted. A specific example I think of are communities in East and West Oakland. They are boxed in by countless highways exposed to the harmful pollutants emitted by vehicles. Then being a city also surrounded by ports as a destination for countless cargo ships that also emit harmful particles they have to breathe in. When fire season does come in California, its effects on Oakland specifically, a community already burdened by other sources of pollution, is not hard to notice. As mentioned before, in the 1991 tunnel fire, communities in West Oakland are likely to have been even more burdened by previous sources of pollution. Wildfires, in a way, highlight air quality issues some communities already face, while also bringing up air quality as a more upfront issue. Preparing and responding to wildfires may require many different approaches. One of the ways Contra Costa County has sought out to directly address wildfires for homeowners and the owners of any form of land in general is the implementation of weed abatement, which requires people to cut down any tall grasses on their property, along with ridding any flammable rubbish or debris from property. The Contra Costa Mitigation Program also addresses a multitude of different issues relating to wildfires, including reimbursing low-income families with money used for tending to and ridding of flammable and overgrown vegetation. The program also addresses the cleaning up of fire evacuation routes, along with the purposeful separation of trees to help prevent spreading of fires. Other more community-oriented solutions to wildfires and its effects are resilience hubs. These hubs are places for many to go to in times of distress or natural disaster. These hubs provide shelter, food, and clean air to those who may seek it in times of disaster. These hubs are especially important to those who may be displaced from wildfire or seek a place that has clean breathing air. Wildfires, though very destructive, can be used for good, with smaller prescribed fires being able to mitigate the widespread effect of wildfires. Stepping into more careful and mindful ways to nurture our environment from wildfires will be key to help ecosystems and communities grow.